meditation is time to get focused. Me, myself, and I. Do we have that? There we go. All right. I'm actually going to use my laptop this time so that every time I hit the button here, I'll hit that button too. You know, you have so many things that you have to focus on. There are so many distractions in life, and yet there are so many important things that you have to do in a day when you are dealing with a chronic illness or excuse me, or a child with a chronic illness. And sometimes it's just time for us to get focused. But I'm talking about a different focus. This time I'm talking about let's get focused on me, myself, and I. I know you've all been taught that's so selfish of you. Shame on you for focusing on yourself. So let's talk about that for a minute and find out how much shame there is in focusing on yourself. First of all, just understand that focus is what helps us pay attention, right? And in the midst of distractions and setbacks, whatever's going on in our life, and it helps us sustain our effort towards a goal, okay? And for every goal, you got to have an action. And for every action, we need energy. And every goal involves you. So we have to decide how we're going to partition out our energy on a daily basis, because every one of us are limited in the amount of energy that we have, not only cognitively, physically, emotionally. How much can we give to a day? And some days are a lot easier than others, as you all know. And so when we talk about this, you know, there are so many ways that, whoops, that was one too far, I think. There we go. There are so many ways that HPP can impact your life. Obviously, there's a lot of different challenges that are involved, and you have a very diverse support system, undoubtedly, and that's what you need in order to maintain optimal quality of life, right? And so, you know, it affects everybody differently. For some, it affects their behavior, their mood. It can affect your, you know, obviously your physical condition. You have medical issues, maybe some mental health concerns, educational needs, which we already covered. So everybody's needs are a little different, and we're all impacted in different ways. But I know that specific to HPP, that there are certain things that you may be facing, such as physical issues, dental issues, I know, mental health, just mobility issues in some cases, walking, driving, just traveling, getting where you want to go, employment opportunities, finances, all your medical bills and such, education. What about social and leisure time? All of those things in your life can be impacted, and a lot of times adversely, because of a chronic disorder like HPP. And so when we look at it, we understand that, you know, there's different intensities, and the medical conditions present themselves differently. And I've got a list there. You guys know full well, I'm sure, what many of the medical issues are. But the reason why I wanted to point this out is this. Some of these very people can be adding additional stress to your life, and particularly at the beginning of your journey, when you're having issues and the doctor doesn't know what's up. And I've read articles about patients with HPP who had experienced years of being told that their condition was psychosomatic. Now, people don't like the word psychosomatic. Well, I'm not talking about psychosis. The word psychosomatic just means that the source of your pain or distress is psychological. It's what you're thinking about, okay? And that makes it psychosomatic. But psychosomatic symptoms are not pseudosomatic, okay? That's different. They're real. That stomach ache, that's real. You ever got a headache because of stress? That's real. You don't have migraines. It's not a medical condition, right? But you have this severe headache. It's probably psychosomatic. It's coming because of the stress that you're under. And so sometimes even the very doctors that are trying to help you can increase your stress level and send you off to a psychologist instead of an endocrinologist or whatever, you know. And so I'm just telling you, there are, you know, difficulties even within the medical community and a lack of information out there and so forth. Now, when we think about our mental health challenges, I think I went one too far again. What am I doing here? There. So the mental health challenges associated with rare disorders include, and obviously this is not an exhaustive list, but these are the most common. We often see depression, anxiety, a lack of self-motivation, and poor behavioral regulation. Now, why poor behavioral regulation? Because I'm stressed out. Why did you ask me 12 times? Okay. We get stressed, and it becomes difficult to regulate our behavior under those circumstances, right? We can get grumpy and edgy. And we need people surrounding us who are very understanding and who love us through those times. But I want you to understand that emerging research, so I just looked this up, I looked it up probably a year ago, and then I looked to see if it had been updated. It was pretty much the same information. But it does suggest that people with rare disorders, that like 69% of those patients report experiencing depression. 82% experience anxiety and stress. And that's compared to the combined population in the general population of only 17% for those same mental health disorders. And so you are, in fact, if you have a rare disorder, you are at risk for depression and anxiety. You are at risk for being emotionally overwhelmed and therefore have difficulty regulating your emotions in order to respond appropriately to your environment. You know, we talked about physical limitations like in the workforce. Obviously, that can be a real problem, but mental health is becoming a much bigger problem in the United States of America than physical health. We are suffering dramatically in this country. I personally have a caseload in my clinic that is way lopsided for teenagers who are under way too much stress and are no longer able to regulate their behavior as a result of that. And so if you are overwhelmed by life, and it decreases your mood, that also decreases your intrinsic, that internal motivation to accomplish those goals we talked about a few minutes ago. You lose your motivation. And it gets to the point where not only are you not motivated to do anything, you actually resist it. And now you're trying to stay at home on purpose. And now it's developing into more concerns for mental illness and specifically depression at that point. And so it is a constant battle. There's a lot of things that impact your mental health that are directly associated with HPP. Your interactions with your medical professionals, I already mentioned how that can sometimes be difficult, and they think, you know, you're not really, you know, it's all psycho, whatever, you know, and that can be very, very difficult to face and to experience as a person, and that in and of itself can quickly lead you down the pathway of depression. Grueling schedules, oh my goodness, we have so many things we have to squeeze into a day with all the medical appointments and everything we have to do. Finance management is huge. When you have a medical condition like HPP, it comes along with medical bills that are sometimes very, very high and difficult to meet that demand. Unpredictability. The friend calls, says, hey, tomorrow you want to go do this? Yes, let's go do that. You wake up that morning and you hurt everywhere. It's unpredictable. It's hard to make plans. You're not sure how you're going to feel. And so you start resisting making plans with others. And then again, we're going down that path of depression. Time management, figuring out where to spend your time. One thing that always gets left off this list of time management that I'm going to rebuke you for today is entertainment. You need some entertainment in your life. And then there's the social and family life that's impacted. And you're a parent and you feel horrible. And, you know, I had all this pain and I'm trying to homeschool my kids and I'm not available to them. I'm not present today because I've got this chronic pain that's distracting me. And then what happens? Oh, I'm a horrible mother. I'm not available to my children. Oh, they need me. Oh, they're going to miss things. And blah, 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 blah. Again, where are we headed? Path of depression. Pathway of depression. Straight down that path. Sense of identity. Who am I? Does your disorder define you? No, it's just a part of who you are, but it doesn't define you. You have purpose and meaning in this life. You've got things to do. And that's apart from HPP. Don't let it define you. Don't let it consume you. Bring that entertainment in. Laugh a little bit. Have some fun in life. Many chronic illnesses include chronic pain. And so when you have chronic pain, it has an adverse impact on your mood. It adversely impacts your sleep, your memory and concentration, and your relationships. So let's talk about those for a minute. With your mood, living in pain makes someone more susceptible to emotional changes. So, you know, you go like this and this and this and this a lot more easy than other people, and that can foster depression, anxiety, and fear. Now, let me help give you a little bit of a picture of what's going on in your day, okay? Because those of us that experience chronic pain are more adversely impacted by minor things coming up in our day than people who don't have pain. And so what happens is we all start at a baseline in our emotions for the day. And then that guy just cut in front of me. I'm like, wait, I'm clear up here now. And then, okay, all right, that situation's passing and we're coming back down to baseline, right? And then, the next little thing. Okay, I jarred it up a little bit, but now I'm back down to baseline. That's called regulating your emotions. What happens when you're in chronic pain is you go from here to here, but you never get clear back down to baseline. You're about halfway down. And then you start going across from there. And then you shoot up, and now you're coming about halfway back down. And the distance between where you started in the day and where you are now is getting greater and greater because you never get back down to baseline where you can take that big breath of fresh air and relax. You're staying at a heightened state of alertness. And because you're staying at a heightened state of alertness, you're more sensitive to things that other people say around you or, you know, the milk being spilled. And so in what I'm going to give you today are some tips on how you're going to go from there back down to baseline, okay? Because you want your days to mostly exist across that baseline. You know, also there's the concern, and this is rampant in the United States right now, and maybe some of you are experiencing this. I know we are in my personal family. And that is the difficulty of maintaining a mood can also promote a person's dependence on prescription drugs. Okay, and I'm talking specifically about opioids. And so Opioids are a blessing when you're in pain, and they're there for a reason, and that's why they're being produced. But we have got to be careful that it doesn't lead to an addiction that then is going to consume your life. And once that happens, your focus will no longer be on healthy living or even on getting your HPP better, because you'll have to be focused on what has then become a drug addiction. And so I'm just cautioning, that we're all careful with that as we go through the process of finding out what works for us. Okay, I definitely, it seems to skip twice. So living in pain can seriously disturb your sleep patterns, of course, and it's always, our sleep goes in cycles, and we're supposed to travel through those cycles. But when we go into pain, what it sometimes does is disrupt our our sleep cycles, so that we never get to REM sleep, where, all that new learning that you learned today is all integrated, and it helps you calm your body, and your body goes into repair mode, and it's trying to fix things physically as well as emotionally. And all of that is the amazing thing that your body's doing for you while you sleep. But chronic pain can disrupt that. And so people with chronic pain can have difficulty just falling asleep, or it may be that they fall asleep, but then they're waking up a lot. There's also the issue where they oversleep, and so now, perhaps because of depression, they're getting, 10, 12 hours of sleep instead of the recommended 7 to 9. But realize that about 21% of Americans with chronic pain talk about how it disrupts their sleep. And with that, the average in the study was that you're losing about 42 minutes of sleep per night. And that'll add up over time. And I know you've been exhausted, you've felt tired, so I get it. But getting yourself on a good sleep pattern is one thing that will really help. And so I'll give you one tip on how to get on a good sleep pattern going, and that is to make it a routine, okay? When it's time for you to go to bed, make it a routine. I'm going to get up, I'm going to go have a little cup of tea. Then I'm going to the bathroom, I'm going to brush my teeth, I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to put a pair of pajamas on, and then I'm going to sit down for 15 minutes and read, okay, or listen to some calming music. Or, this is a new thing that I discovered, I don't know why it didn't occur to me. Do you know that bedtime stories work for adults as well? Oh, there's whole apps. I had no idea. There's apps out there, and they're bedtime stories for adults. I literally fall asleep in the middle of these stories. I'm shocked. Like, how did you do that? It wasn't boring. It was like it was interesting. Like, I wanted to listen to it, and yet fell fast asleep over and over and over. So you might want to try a few things like that, and just, obviously the internet's full of ideas of how to help yourself sleep, but it is a really important aspect of our daily lives. And the amount of sleep that you get really impacts your memory and concentration, and then pain also, So not only did I not get any sleep, but now I'm still experiencing the pain, and it causes us, so when we're learning new things, we have what's called memory traces, and your brain goes out there and picks up those traces and stores them in these little file cabinets in your brain. So later you can go to the file cabinet and pull that right out. But what happens is when we're tired is we're not very efficient in storing that information. We do run into the file cabinet room, but we just open up any old drawer and cram that in. Leave. Next day, Mama calls, says, you remember we were going to, wait, yeah, what? Let me see here. And you're now going through the process of opening every file cabinet in your head, digging through it, trying to find that one piece of paper that you didn't file properly because, well, you were exhausted. And that's what happens. And obviously, if we're not filing information efficiently, we're not able to recall efficiently. And this is something that happens a lot with children with HPP in the schools as well. So think of how that impacts them. It affects our ability to remember, to concentrate, and to focus. And realize that it's while we're sleeping, like I said before, that you consolidate this information that you're trying to remember. And if you're not sleeping well, you're not consolidating it, and so you won't get the same benefit of remembering that information later. There are so many side effects of a chronic illness on relationships. Living in pain and having to cancel a lot with your friends. That's one thing that impacts. They get tired of that. After a while, they quit calling. And the thing is, you don't really care because you're exhausted anyway. So it's kind of like, I make plans with my friends, and then I secretly pray that they cancel so I won't have to, because I'm exhausted. Physical limitations, sometimes you just can't get where they want to go, and so you get left out of those situations. And it can really interrupt your social life, and it causes you to be more inclined to maybe to just stay at home. That's just easier. And while it may be very true that it certainly is easier to stay home, understand that it has an adverse impact on your mental health when you make those choices day after day after day. Because, we live in a social world and we need each other. And so if you're isolating yourself, you've got needs that are not being met. Obviously, it can also impact or interfere with your sexual relationships, your household, your finances, your parenting, interacting with your children, things like that. And so here come the tips for taking care of you. It's time to focus on me, myself, and I. And the purpose of focusing on me, myself, and I is to improve the lives of people around you. Did you hear what I just said? Let me try it again. The purpose of focusing on me, myself, and I is so that you are a blessing and you're more available. It's the benefit of people around you. It's not a selfish decision. It's one that promotes healthier living for other people as well, the people that are in your life. And so just realize that self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. I don't know about you. There are days there is not much left. Okay? We want the world to get the best of us and not what's just left of us. And so how do we do that? I'm going to give you a lot of tips. I'm going to ask you to choose one of them. Just choose one of them and put it into practice in your life and see if you don't increase the quality of your life. The first thing that I'm going to suggest is that you meditate. The reason why I'm suggesting this is because the research for the last 20 years, it never contradicts. Time and time and time again, meditation is the number one way that people receive relief from stress and can help lift their moods and get out of depressions. So according to the research, meditation helps train your brain to focus, and it improves your attention. So those are things that we already talked about that might be limited in people with HPP. It also decreases anxiety, and it increases the enjoyment of a moment in time. It increases your tolerance for discomfort and pain. It reduces your reactivity, and which decreases stress in your life and the feeling of being emotionally overwhelmed. And then studies also show that meditation will slow down or prevent cognitive decline. And pain is well known in the medical research to cause a decline in your cognitive abilities. Okay? And this is saying it'll stop that. Whoosh, that sounds like a good one. You might want to give that a try. I'll tell you just a little bit more about that in a second. So you also want to stay connected. So I already talked about, the importance of relationships and maintaining those. But, like I said, we often tend to withdraw, and we don't really want to be around other people. We lack energy. Or in many cases, we just don't want to be a burden to others. I know there are many days that I am in extreme chronic pain, but I don't mention it. I don't tell anybody. So I don't want to be that guy in their life, that complainer. Always got something. And so it makes it difficult to be transparent, right, with your friends. If you feel like you can't really talk about where you are and the pain you're in and things like that. Staying socially connected keeps your mind in a healthier place, and it boosts positivity in your life, overall well-being. So I'm suggesting that you trade in that night with Netflix for an occasional dinner out with friends, okay? And then find a new social group to participate in. There's so many groups out there. And, you know, we are social beings. We were created to be social and to be in groups. That's why you see so many clubs, right? Because we're all looking for a place to belong. Everybody needs to fit in somewhere, right? So we have the goth, whatever that is, and we have the motorcyclists and whatever that is, and I'm one of those. And, you know, we all participate in these different groups for particular reasons, and the reason is that it makes you feel better. It increases your mood. It helps you get around people that you have something in common with that makes you feel like you're a part of something important. And my goodness, you know, go out and try something new, something you've never done before. You might be shocked. You'll find something you're interested in or something that you're really good at that you never even knew. There's all kinds of things, social groups. I mean, you know, bingo, there's that. There's lots of people that do that, I guess. But join a walking group or join a book club or participate in an advocacy group that is important to you, like HPP. Because when you're giving of yourself to others, it does have that benefit of improving your mental health. And so, with that, I want to talk next about, ooh-wee. This is a good one. This is an easy one. If you're just going to pick one that's pretty easy, this is it. It's called an attitude of gratitude. So a few weeks ago, there was this thing going around on Facebook. I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it was, you know, this simulated airline accident. And it was showing you, like, what the people were going through before they got on the plane and before it crashed, right? And they're all busy and, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'll take care of that later. And, you know, they're all, and they get on the plane, and the plane goes down. But what came up next was a big surprise to me, because I've seen a lot of those creation things, you know, and so I was a little taken back by what it came back with. And what it actually said was, if you lost everything today and woke up tomorrow morning with nothing except what you were grateful for, what would you wake up to? I was like, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful, you know, it's like we forget this. But, you know, having an attitude of gratitude reverses depression. It's really hard to be grateful and depressed at the same time. So we're looking for things that are kind of the opposite of the situation that you're in to combat it. So if depression is sadness, we want happiness. And one of the things that we know by research is that having an attitude of gratitude makes a big difference in your daily life and just in your mental health. So if you don't do any of these others, at least you could wake up tomorrow morning and as you're trying to drag yourself out of bed, go over all those things that you're grateful for. And then I suggest that you end your day by recalling 3 things that you're grateful for from that day. From that day. Sometimes we have to dig deep to find that, but that's okay. Dig deep. Find 3 things that you can be grateful for in your day today. And then be grateful for that before you fall asleep. I'll bet it'll be the first thing you think of the next morning if you do that. It's kind of fun. Get your brain headed in the right direction. You need to do a body check-in. If you don't, whoops, see, it keeps doubling. No, not that either. There we go. So a body check-in is just simply kind of thinking about your whole body and checking in with it, okay? Like yesterday, I got really irritable for a moment. I was talking to my daughter, and I got really irritable, and all of a sudden I was like, whoa, wait, check in here. What is going on? Why am I irritable right now? And all of a sudden I went, oh my gosh, I have not eaten for 9 hours. Time to eat, okay? But if I hadn't checked in with my body, I would have just stayed irritable. I was in a serious accident a few years ago, and my brain no longer tells me that I'm hungry. Like, I don't get hunger pains or anything. Like, I literally never think about eating food. I know all of you out there are like, oh man, I wish that happened to me. You're not complaining, are you? I'm not mad about it. But it was a medical issue, you know, and it did get extreme to the point that I had lost so much weight that I was like dwindling into nothing. I literally had to set timers on my phone to eat. So there's that. Some people have different things to deal with, right? We're so busy. We've got 24-hour everything. Social media, smartphones, tablets, laptops, TVs. And it can distract you from what's going on in your body. We can literally get involved in what, you know, the TV or whatever, and then you're not paying attention to yourself. There's this term called mindfulness. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's really popular in my world as a psychologist. But it's the basic idea is being mindful of the moment and what's happening right now around you and trying to tune into that. And dealing with that. Otherwise, we file things back in our brain, and it's like, oh, I had this issue I didn't take care of, 27 hours ago, and all these other things, and it can end up, increasing your anxiety and depression, or the symptoms of it. And so mindfulness is actually known in the research to reduce your stress level, and it helps a lot with anxiety. And part of mindfulness just goes back to that attitude of gratitude and being mindful of what you do have in your life instead of focusing on what you don't have. And it is a wonderful way just to get in touch with your body. So what I literally do, and you can spend 5 to 15 minutes. I'm going to literally explain this to you. And this is part of a meditation routine, okay? So what you're doing is you're breathing deeply. And I don't know if you realize, but your lungs are in 2 sections. You want to go all the way down to the lower lung, okay? So you're really going to take a deep, deep, deep breath. And when you think you've breathed as deeply as you can, take another breath, okay? Because there will be a little more room in there. And then you just slowly let it come out. Some people are calmed by making a little noise while they're doing that. Other people don't like to hear any noise at all. But while you're doing that, you're placing your thoughts on your body. You're starting at your toes, and you're coming all the way up to your head. And you're thinking, how are my toes? Oh, goodness, I got an ingrown toenail down there. I'll have to fix that. How are my chins, thigh, just kind of travel up your body and check yourself out, that body awareness thing. And if you find that you have a lot of tension somewhere in your body, like a lot of times you'll find across, your shoulders or neck area, or maybe in your lower back, and you're feeling a lot of tension, it's that deep breathing. So you want to think about sending the oxygen to the part of your body that's so tense, okay? And just kind of focus on and concentrate on getting a stronger oxygen flow to that part of your body. And so that's all it is. It's just checking yourself out, figuring out where you're at for the day, and then focusing on whatever is important for you that day, which may be getting some medical help, depends on what your body check turns out like, right? So one good thing is always to get moving and to try something new, my dear brother Dave here, who was in a wheelchair for so many years, he still moved. moved around all the time, get great hugs, you know. That type of movement is important for your body, particularly if you're in a wheelchair. You want to keep that blood flowing to those different areas. But, you know, exercise obviously increases the blood flow. And sometimes, for example, if you're in a wheelchair, you have to adapt those exercises. But there's this, okay? And now you're still pumping the oxygen to your brain. You might not be running on a treadmill, but you're doing the best you can. That's one thing I always do to the kids at school that are in wheelchairs. If they're like taking off down the hall, I'm like, hey, no running in the halls, you know, and they just cackle and think that's hilarious, you know. But then we also get them involved in physical activity as much as possible. And keep an open mind and seize an opportunity to do something new. I did that not very long ago. I had a friend who does this jewelry art stuff, and it was beautiful, and I was like, that might be fun to try, you know. And so I tried it, and well, it wasn't my thing, but I enjoyed it while I was doing it. It's not like I picked it up as a hobby or thought I was going to make a life out of it or anything, but it was interesting, and I enjoyed it for that day. And you know how many opportunities are out? You would be shocked at all the things people do out there. I watch the news sometimes, and they'll show, you know, people that, I don't know, do things I've never even heard of before, you know. Why somebody would put a log on their shoulder and, you know, throw it up in the air and slick logs and try to climb those, you know. But there's some crazy things going on out there, and you might love it. You might think that's the best ever. I'm a fisherman. I love to fish. That's something that I do, calms me, gets me away from everybody. So sometimes I just challenge myself to try to catch a certain type of fish. Okay, what kind of bait am I going to need for that, you know? Anything like that. Just do something different to add some pizzazz to your life, some interest, some differences. Get out of that rut that you're in and realize there's Frisbee golf. Have you ever heard of that? That's one you can do in a wheelchair. I've seen them. Okay, Frisbee golf. You know, there's so many things out there, and so many things in our world now are being adapted anyway. You know, you can go skiing in a wheelchair. So, and sky jumping. So with all of that being said, I'm just really encouraging you to, you know, when you try something new or different, it stimulates the area in your brain that produces energy for your body. And so, again, I don't know how many slides I went forward there. And, okay. Take probiotics. There's another easy one you can do. It really helps your mental health. And people are like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, probiotics? You talking vitamins and such? I am, as a matter of fact. Approximately 90% of the serotonin, that's your happy hormone, people. It makes us happy. The happy hormone, the transmitters are actually in your belly. And it directly impacts your brain in terms of your mood and your memory and your focus and those things that we already talked about, your overall sense of well-being. And the research actually suggests that taking a daily probiotic may help ward off depression. Okay, so it really does what you eat and how you take care of your body and what kinds of supplements you do or don't provide will impact your mental health one way or the other. And then eating a diet that's high in plant foods because they're rich in the prebiotics. And you know, we need the prebiotics and then the probiotics. You can get a lot of prebiotics in the foods that we eat, like vegetables, nuts, seeds, fruits, beans, and whole grains. And that keeps your gut bacteria healthy and active. And so that can also be something to improve your mental health. Forming routines are always good. Sitting at home all day with nothing to do takes a toll on you emotionally. First of all, it's boring. And when you're bored, your brain shuts down your motivation center. And your motivation center is what activates you or causes you to initiate action towards your goals. Let me ask you something. Why in the world do you wash the dishes? Is that something you enjoy doing? Now, if you're like me, you put it off as long as you can, but eventually we got to wash the dishes. What motivates us to get up and wash the dishes when we do not want to do that? That's an internal motivation, an intrinsic motivation that causes us to get up and do that. But if we're depressed or anxious, we're not going to be able to talk ourselves into that. We don't have the motivation. If you have a house that's filthy, in my world we say, people with chronic stress make piles, okay? Consider what's going on in your life. It's not the fact that your house is a mess that's the problem. The problem is why it was allowed to get that way. Maybe it doesn't matter to you. For some people it doesn't. I don't care what your house looks like. But, for sanitary reasons, for other reasons, we do things in certain ways, and certainly we wash our dishes. So just realize that those low-level duties that have to be done, the ones that you and your spouse fight over who has to do it this time, if you are in a state of weakened emotional state, you're not going to have the energy, the desire, or the motivation to do any of that. And then that can be a continual issue in your life. So having a routine provides meaning and purpose. And no matter what research you look at all over the world, the number 2 things they tell you will make a difference in your life, whether you're happy or whether you're not, is meaning and purpose. Your life must have meaning and it must have a purpose. Sign up to volunteer, try a new hobby, become a mentor, get involved in civic activities. My goodness, there's a million things. But just form a new routine and include some different things that maybe will reactivate your center, which is why I'm telling you about entertainment. It fuels our brain with serotonin, and it helps us feel better. That's why we're willing to spend that money on entertainment. And unfortunately, some of the people who need entertainment the most are the ones that are giving it up because of the stress and the difficulties in their life. So you need to build in entertainment into your life to help reduce some of that stress and pressure you're under. Use positive self-talk. I was doing this earlier out at lunch. I was talking with my goddaughter, and I was, and all of a sudden I just started saying these positive things about myself. I wasn't bragging. I was just trying to get the conversation turned around, because I have recently been under some extreme stress where I spent 30 days at the critical care unit with my son on life support. And I'm just about 2 weeks on the other side of that right now. And so while I was under that extreme stress, my mental health really suffered, and anxiety reared its head again. And I began to realize that I needed to put some of these very things into practice in my own life. And even as I was reading this out loud, and I was practicing this with my husband, I make him listen to these things, And I was practicing, and he's like, are you hearing yourself, Dr. Sears? Are you listening to what you just said? So what's your new hobby you're going to pick up? It's like, whatever. Develop a compassionate relationship with your body. Be nice. You're not always going to be able to do everything you want to do. Don't condemn your body for it. Don't start cursing yourself. Just say, tomorrow's going to be a better day. I took 10 steps today, and tomorrow it's going to be 20. That is positive self-talk. Avoid self-judgment. Why do you always complain? Why are you always making excuses and not going, you could really do that if you wanted to. Stop it. Maybe you could really do that if you wanted to. The point is, you don't want to. Why not? What can you do to turn that around? Practice positive affirmations and visualization. Now, visualization, I know people think it sounds hokey pokey. I don't know if you've ever tried it before, but you ought to try it before you judge it. But visualization is this idea of you imagining or dreaming about how you want your life to look in the future. And you can visualize that in your mind and think about what that would look like and where you would be and, you know, all of those kinds of things that would be associated with that. So, for example, 6 years ago when I started my business, I visualized it being a $1 million business. Ooh, we're going to need a much bigger space than this. This is not going to be enough space for us. I'm going to need to hire more people. I don't have enough people, right? All of those kinds of things going on. And with that being said, you can kind of see that, and it helps set a plan and a kind of it gives you the motivation to take an action towards that goal. And so remember that when negativity arises, rather than allowing yourself to be drawn into that self-defeating negative thought, replace it with positive affirmations. You didn't reach all your goals today, Kelly. I could stop right there, but I don't. I go on and say, but that's okay. Some of them didn't need to be met today, and some of them are just meant for another day, so it's okay. See a therapist. I'm going to have to start running through these quicker now because obviously I'm out of time. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm not psychotic, or somehow people are going to think I'm crazy. Listen, if you've never been to a therapist, you are missing out on a real treat. That's all I can tell you. So much relief there. And sometimes it's just nice to get an outside view on things because you heard it a million times from your spouse or your mother or your neighbor or whoever else. So it's nice to get another person in there that doesn't have anything to gain or lose one way or the other. Remember that you are likely, once you get the HPP diagnosis, you're going to go through a grieving period. It's called a loss of health. And during that grieving period, you may very well need professional counseling, someone to support you through that process to kind of help you keep it moving along. And don't ignore the signs. What are the signs? Staying at home, canceling with your friends, not developing interests, losing interest in things that you used to enjoy, all of those kinds of things. Don't be afraid to ask for help. A psychologist, I have a psychologist on my personal team, and it ain't me. I'm talking about, someone else. And that number is 24/7. I called that therapist 3 different times during that month that I was at the critical care unit, and it really did bring me relief. So certainly, there's good reasons to have that in place. A positive support system, obviously, and you need to get that in place. Oh my goodness, yes. Please laugh. Please laugh. A merry heart does good like medicine. Happiness goes hand in hand with laughing, and humor is a great relief. So mentally fit people, according to research in my field, those are individuals that tend to take time to celebrate funny things and laugh about them out loud and spend time outside in nature. That's something that can have a very calming effect and boost your mood as well. And then last but not least, don't forget, you're supposed to put your oxygen mask on you first, and then you put it on the other people. So with that being said, I pray that this has been helpful to you and that you would just take the time to just pick 1 or 2 things off that list that might help improve your quality of life so that you can get off of that path of depression and anxiety and onto a healthier living. And in order for you to do that, you're going to have to focus on me, myself, and I. Thank you guys so much for giving me this time. I really appreciate it.